All right. Hey, everyone. We are back. James Gardner here with my dear friend, colleague, soul sister, Brenda St Louis. Hello.
Hello, James. It's so good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you. And we were just chatting before this, gang, and we haven't really seen each other in a while, and yet we're always in each other's corner, even if we don't communicate. And that's true friendship. That's true bond, right? That's the leading with love right there. So it's always a pleasure talking to you. I'm excited. So before we begin, anybody who's tuning in on this, obviously this is what we call our book Q&A, and my book, which is called All In With Love, My Journey to the Hero Within, is my story, my life story, if you will, of an old man looking for reconnection to the child within, and the beauty of everything in between. So this is Q&A. Brenda, fire away. I know you've been following me for a while. You've seen stuff on social. You've seen snippets. You know some stories. And let's have a discussion.
Well, it's been like wild to watch the transition and the focus on writing this book, and now it's finished, and now it's time to unleash it to the world. And I'm super excited to kind of pick your brain and ask some questions about how was the process, what was it like? And I know that you've dropped all kinds of like really interesting things about the book, and I'm like, what? Like, I want to ask questions before I ask the process. Are you okay to me just to question bomb you with things?
Bomb away.
Well, I know that you are from Rhode Island, and I don't know anyone from Rhode Island, honestly. I have this idea of it, and you don't speak like you're from Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Maybe it's because you're an actor too, right? But what, like, I know that Rhode Island is a big part of the book and the story, correct?
Yeah,
Tell me
it's
a little bit, what was it like being in Rhode Island?
what's Rhode Island like?
Yeah.
uh, well, first and foremost, it's a state in the United States. It's not part of New York. It's not Long Island. It's Rhode Island. So that's usually the question I get.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's like any state, I suspect, in New England, which is, it was one of the 13 colonies when settlers first came over. So it's steeped in history, and it's called the Ocean State. So most of it is surrounding the ocean, and the Atlantic and Narragansett Harbor, and or Narragansett Bay, and then Newport was where a lot of the money from the old world came over, and mansions and the Rockefellers and Kennedys, and it's a beautiful mix of kind of farmland, ruralness, and harbor ocean life, if you will. It does play a big part in the story. The first arena is Rhode Island, and so I was very fortunate enough to grow up in a very small village, a historic village, where you walk down the street and there's plaques on buildings that say Narragansett Bank, 1783, right? And so someone lives in that house, but it used to be the Narragansett Bank, and so forth and so on. So it's really, some of it is very postcard New England. Like you see just old style East Coast charm. It's beautiful. So yeah.
So very like a lot of the wealthy families have influence in that place. Historically, it's maintained. It probably will always be the same look and feel.
Yeah. So Wickford Village, which I think was founded in 1613 or something like this, right? 1631 maybe. It's governed, right? So the houses are painted, have to be painted a certain color. You have to go through a strict process to maintain a semblance of the old times. So so you're always stepping back in time to a degree when you when you walk down Main Street, especially.
So you grew up in a neighborhood, was it Sidot Drive? Is that the neighborhood that you
Yeah,
grew up in?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good one. People are like, how do you pronounce that? Yeah, Sidot Drive. You know, obviously the story is about inner child, as I said, and so it starts with little Jimmy. And
Mhm.
little Jimmy was very fortunate enough to grow up in a neighborhood where there were kids and there was a bunch of us. And when the sun rose, we met on the street, figured out what the adventure was of the day, and off to the races we went. And then we came home, you know, with the cry of dinner, you know, shouting through the neighborhood, Jimmy, dinner, or whatever it was. And that was it. And you know, you know, too, like the old days of play and just what it meant to be young, and where you didn't have as many distractions or other things, and you were forced to dream and to create, and to live in the moment, purely live in the moment. And I was very blessed to do that. My next door neighbor, Dave, who plays a pivotal role in the book, I've known him since I was 4.
Hmm.
You know, it's just, yeah, it's incredible, you know, and we're still best friends. Like, yeah, it's
I
crazy.
can imagine when you're creating the scene of your childhood, because I grew up in a neighborhood too, where we had to come home when the streetlights went on,
Mhm.
right? Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah.
out, and I remember go tadpole hunting and like kind of like playing in, like no one knew where you were
Right.
and no one really cared unless you didn't show up for dinner in a way.
No.
But it's so wild. I'm really curious, like that whole like painting that scene
Mm,
of what that neighborhood did for you. And I know that you struggled a lot with asthma when you were a kid, right?
mhm.
And what that must have been like. I know that that probably plays a role, I'm assuming, in the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. It does. You know, I think you could one could argue that the whole initial big bang of my life was being born with asthma, right? Because uh, you know, and I was quite, it was quite severe. So I was in the hospital all the time. So I had what I call frequent flyer miles at the hospital, the pediatric
Mm.
ward. Everyone knew me. I got away
Oh.
with murder, you know. um, and in that process, Jimmy created his only resolve, which was the ability to dream, and the dreaming helped him escape that affliction, the storytelling, the dreaming, the fantasizing. And because of that, that's the seed that started to gestate when he started to get attention, whether it was from the candy stripers or from the nurses because he made them laugh or whatever it was. There was That was the seed of, oh, they like me, or oh, I made them laugh or made them, I don't know, whatever. And so that then, of course, as you know, I get later on in life, I get older, and then that steamrolls into a sense of self-worth, you know, external validation, and Jim started to lose sense of who he was and all of that. So asthma is always been a big thing, if not the biggest thing. Yeah.
So being an entertainer, like it's like standing up to be an entertainer, not a kid with asthma that's sick,
Right.
right? Like your value is coming from making someone laugh
That's it.
or giving them like joy.
Yeah. You know, at a young age, that's exactly right. At a young age, Jimmy knew, like Jimmy could feel, and
Mm.
he had the ability to feel what he was watching on TV, whether it was Captain Kirk or someone in a situation. It felt real to him, and he, you know, so there was an emotional connection, and you know, he knew that he had that ability to elicit that in others. Um, you know.
So do you think that um, like I know that you were an actor, you're a storyteller, you're an interviewer, you were, you do hold space to entertain, to tell a story, to all of that. And like I know for me, I was in clown school and it was really about being on stage and being fully present so that people could receive you, right? And that you had to take down all these masks in order to be really fully present. And it's a lot of inner work to be really good at it. And there's some people that have those masks and they're really, really good at it and no one knows, right? Like Robin Williams, for instance, right? Like that kind of persona where they are the entertainer, but there's something missing inside. Was that something that happened for you when you kind of were going on this inner journey to yourself?
Well, yeah, the persona to be on stage, when I moved to New York City, and that's the doorway that I walked through to adulthood. And that's, that is where Jimmy started to become severed from the young man, Jim, because as I started to book acting gigs and started to enjoy the spotlight and the applause and everything that comes with it, I started to shift more from an egoic standpoint of like, yeah, this is feeding me, I'm something. Whereas Jimmy's perspective was, I want to make people laugh. I want to make people think. I want to make people cry. Like, like I needed to feel something to escape asthma. So I figure other people want to escape things, whereas Jim was like, yeah, let's go. Right. Yeah. And so whether it was being on stage or whether it was being on stage behind the bar, it was still attention.
Right.
Right.
So
So
when did you give up that Jimmy's kind of empath?
well, it was a fissure. And so I spent
Okay, you
12
didn't give
years
it
in New
up.
York. Yeah, I spent 12 years in New York and 2 in Los Angeles. Right. So
Okay.
over those 14 years, the crack kept
Okay.
widening.
Mm.
And then, in LA is where the dream died, and I left Jimmy completely, like the
Mm.
fracture gone. And I talk about that in the book where, I'm leaving little Jimmy, like little Jimmy's sitting in this vacant apartment, screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." Right. And so it's interesting because the Los Angeles arena is Jimmy's arena, kind of. It's in the book. We meet Jimmy in the Rhode Island, and then in New York we don't really. It's all Jim, but then Jimmy comes back in LA as a conscious voice in Jim, because LA is the land of make us famous. We're going to be movie stars. We're going to do this, and so he comes back in, and then of course, yeah, like when the dream dies, that was the severed point. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, the process of writing this book must have brought up a lot of those pieces, right? Like, what was the process like to kind of unearth everything and put it on paper?
Well, I mean, you're an author yourself. We all have different ways that we channel our content, if you will. And I was very blessed to just start writing, and it was effortless to a degree with stuff. The process was, I had moments, Brenda, where I had to work through things. I mean, this was a cathartic experience, to say the least. I'm writing about my life story. And so, every time keystrokes would go in my keyboard, you start creating different doorways, and these doorways start to open, and then it opens to trauma or experiences that you completely forgot. And then you have to kind of dive in there and muddle around and see what, if anything, serves the story, because ultimately that's the thing. And it's also been, as I said the other day, that exact scenario with the doorways has probably been the greatest gift. It's reconnected me to all these beautiful, beautiful moments that, when we live from kind of a fear and an expectation adult mindset, we forget the beauty in some of these simple moments. Yeah.
When you talk, it just like, I can feel this tenderness of, like, when there's something that's so powerful and so fragile at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
You could change worlds with it, but you have to treat it with tenderness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like when you talk, and the bits that I've been watching you show up, it's like this tender powerfulness.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think me, the James, so the person that towards the end of the book. So you only know, a fraction of the man before you. And I think that's how I show up. And the book process has fed to that, has really fed into me walking with the divine feminine, walking hand in hand with my inner child, being even more emotionally present and emotionally accessible, and truly leading with love. And some of the book is very tender, and some of and I'm a romantic, as you know, right?
Yeah.
So
Love
I get I'll cry at a Hallmark card commercial, for God's sakes. Like,
Me too.
So, my kids would make fun of me when we watch America's Talent or something, because I'm always like, I'm like, I'm just an emotional guy. And yet I truly feel, though, I know it's my story, Brenda, but I'm disengaged, and I just know that it moves people, and will provide them with an emotional tapestry experience. They're going to hate me in the book at times. They're going to root for me. They're going to cry. They're going to go, what the? They're going to laugh, like, and then, anyway.
Well, I know that when you come full circle in your story, like, I know we're always uncovering and always evolving into more, but when we come to completion in the healing of our journey, it has this tenderness that's unshakable, right? It has this ability to you could show up tenderly, and you're not distanced to it. It just has, it's a fullness that cannot be destroyed, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm satiated with tenderness. It's just, that's it. It's like unwavering. You just said it, right? Yeah.
So beautiful. I know you've talked a lot about this, like, movies to you sound like they're a bit of the, I don't know if they're the compass for you that guide you or whatever. Like, you have Star Trek, Wizard of Oz, you've got Chippendales to, Fraser, you know what I mean? Like,
Fraser.
or Kelsey Grammer, anyway.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
It's just there's this kind of Hollywood celebrity cameos that seem to sprinkle themselves through your story. So that's my impression, but I'm just curious, what would you say to that from that perspective?
Well, yeah, I live in a movie every day. I do. That's what I realized in this process. It's like I have a soundtrack of my life every day. Some days it's a drama, some days it's a comedy, some days
You're
it's a
also the
poetry.
best lip syncer on the planet.
Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, so movies do play a part. So movies have always inspired me. And obviously little Jimmy, he wanted to be an actor because of movies and because of that. So uh, the being in New York and LA, obviously it's celebrity life, or it's more of a celebrity driven experience per se for some.
Mhm.
Just so happened for me, I had my fair share of experiences, both friendships, intimate, funny, full circle moments from like when I was a kid, and all of a sudden, boom, I get to meet a hero of mine when I was a kid, and things like that. So there's a lot of full circle moments. The celebrity, the the Forrest Gump style moments, as I call them in the book. Like, in other words, you're like, wait a minute, you did that, or you were with that person, or whatever.
Yeah.
They serve the purpose, though, of I believed it was my destiny to be a movie star.
Mm.
And these moments of meeting celebrities, it kept me on that compass point to be like, yeah, you're right. You're right where you need to be. You're in the land of poof, you've made it, right? And that was a recurring thing. And I talk about serendipity a lot. There's full circle moments and full circle moments and serendipitous moments in all our lives, not just mine. And they're a gift and they're magic and they're around us everywhere if we choose to see them.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to see them as an egoic, yeah, I'm on the right path. And there's a lot of moments that way, and things, specifically, without giving it away, there's one moment where I create something, right? I worked on this for 5 years. I create something, and from the get-go, I'm like, this person's involved with this. This person's going to be involved with this. I know it. 5 years, I'm working on this project. It's a screenplay. And in LA, all of a sudden, I get hired for a job. And the director of the job is the guy that is going to helm my screenplay. And it was an amazing experience for what it was. And I was like, this is it. I've made it. Like, this is it. Like, you can't tell me that for 5 years, I've been thinking this is the person that is going to do this. And then I manifest it. It's a sign of destiny. And in reality, no, nothing happened. And
Interesting, the learning that you would get. Like, what is the, like, you think the lesson's this when it's probably something different, right?
yeah. And the crux of the book is destiny, fate. It's not up to us. It's not. The only thing we can do is go all in the moment.
Oh, I love that. That's why it's all in with love.
Right. That's all we can do.
I love that.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So movies, big thing. I'll just say too that it's structured in a way that's unique to a degree. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm writing this new evolution of a genre. It's just me, Jimmy, Jim, James. I've been on stage. I love music, as you know. I've been in TV and movies and love movies. It's written that way. So there's.
You describe it that way, right? Like, it's a musical, a screenplay,
yeah, kind of. There's
feeling.
Yeah. There's those elements, right? There's Shakespearean style choruses that are introducing the character of the play as he, on a quest to the faraway land of Manhattan, where blah, blah, blah. And, because we are all actors on the stage of life. And so there's elements of that. There's elements where I go into a screenplay style format, because I do live in a movie. and music.
And then you can like say, oh, the lighting was this way and the curtain was this way, and like the table, like, so you're positioning it. Oh, I love that. I can't wait to read that, because I can picture setting the stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Wow. Amazing.
And then at the end, without giving away the end, it's it all comes to, it's all those things blend into this ending moment of stage, music, film, fantasy, and reality. Right. Because the unanswerable question that I have in my life, Brenda, is, can my fantasy life be my reality? Right.
Okay.
So, Jimmy was fantasy reality, right? And then fantasy doesn't exist. And then, the James and the conscious rebirth is like, no, fantasy reality. Fantasy is reality, right? Like that's how I roll. That's that middle lane that I live in, right? That's the hero wisdom, that blend of inner child, love, awe, wonder, purity, zero expectations, with the wisdom of age and adult and a journey. That to me is true wisdom.
It's like a full circle moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, well, you're amazing.
You're amazing. And I
You're
can't
amazing.
wait to read it. Like, I know I could have 100 different questions around this book and all the characters that you, or people, like all the people that you've encountered in your life. I'm really excited to read it and kind of get a bird's eye view of what's going on in your world. And I bet it's probably also like a guidebook, I bet, for other people to look at their life from the perspective of, all the different ways of like having the musical in your head, living in a fantasy, and bringing reality to our dream life.
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think it can be, a textbook of what not to do, of what to do, of how maybe to incorporate more inner child play in our lives. And as a creative artist yourself, I think we're all artists. The act of creation is the act of being young.
Yeah. Or also, I think creation is what it means to be source energy. So it's also the act of being wise.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So, well, thank you for your time diving in on this. I really appreciate it. You're amazing. And I look forward to some more chats with you and some more deep dives.
I can't wait to see it and read it and hold it. And I'm so curious what the cover looks like.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I got some ideas. We're going to obviously work with an artist to design that. Yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Yeah.
I know. And I love it, right? So I'm all like, kid in the candy store. So, all right. Mad love to you, Brenda St. Louis. Thank you so much.
Love you.
And for all of you out there that find this, tune in, take away something. I hope you will step inside with me to either hug, find, reconnect, connect with your inner child. And I look forward to having you dive into All In With Love, my journey to the hero within. Cheers.